Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we're talking about a legend that doesn't show up with claws or a weapon. It shows up with a sound, a cry in the night that people swear it's like a warning straight from the dark. It's the Banshee. Most people meet the Banshee through horror movies or spooky internet stories. In those versions, it's simple, you hear the wail, and something terrible is about to happen. A paranormal siren, a cursed alarm clock, end of story. But the older story is way more interesting because the Banshee isn't really a monster. It's a cultural invention built to explain grief, fear, and change in a way that feels understandable. So first, the legend. In the classic tale, the Banshee is a supernatural figure whose cry is connected to death in a family. Sometimes she's described as an old woman, sometimes young, sometimes hidden in shadows, sometimes never seen at all, only heard. The details shift depending on the region and the storyteller. But the core idea stays the same, a sound that signals a turning point. Now the real part. Underneath, in Irish tradition, the Banshee often isn't random. She's tied to a specific family. That matters, because it turns the story from a ghost haunts the countryside into this is a message connected to community, memory, and belonging. And the name itself points to that older world. Banshee comes from the Irish Banshee, often explained as a woman of the fairy mound, basically someone linked to the other world. But in everyday storytelling, she becomes something else, a messenger, not exactly evil, not exactly kind, more like inevitable, like thunder far away. You don't argue with it. You just notice it. Here is the human truth. People don't need a ghost to tell them life ends. Everyone knows that. What people actually need is help dealing with the feeling of it. Because grief is weird. It doesn't act politely. It doesn't follow schedules. It sneaks into your chest, your sleep, your attention. It makes normal noises feel sharper. It makes you replay every moment. It makes you crave a warning, something that makes loss feel less random. So cultures create symbols that give the invisible a shape. The Banshee is basically grief given a voice. That's why the story sticks. It's not just scary. It's emotionally accurate. The wail is what grief feels like, loud inside you, even if the world outside looks normal. And there's another piece that connects the myth to real life, mourning traditions. In older Irish communities, grief wasn't always private and quiet. There were public rituals of mourning, including keening, a kind of vocal lament. It wasn't just noise. It was a social signal. It told the community, someone is gone. This matters. Gather round. Support the family. So when you hear about a supernatural wail, notice how close it is to something real humans do. When people hurt, sound comes out. Crying, singing, lamenting, praying out loud. The Banshee legend takes that sound and turns it into a character and someone who cries when words aren't enough. Now let's jump to the American chapter, because that's where the Banshee becomes more than just an Irish ghost story. When Irish immigrants came to the United States in huge numbers, especially in the 1800s, they didn't just bring food and music. They brought ways of thinking. They brought stories that helped them survive. And a lot of that immigration happened under pressure, poverty, discrimination, dangerous jobs, crowded neighborhoods, sickness spreading fast. People were far from home, and families were often separated. In that world, stories about warnings and mourning hit differently, because when life feels unstable, your brain hunts for patterns. It wants signs. It wants meaning. It wants to believe the universe gives you a heads up. So the Banshee travels well, not necessarily because everyone literally believed a supernatural woman was outside their window, but because the story describes a feeling that follows people everywhere, the fear of sudden loss, and the wish that it comes with a signal you can understand. And the legend also becomes a way of keeping identity. For immigrant communities, old stories are like a cultural fingerprint. Even in Boston, New York, or Chicago, the Banshee story keeps a thread tied to Ireland. It says, "We remember. We carry this. We're still us." Now, there is also a practical reason night cry legends last. The night is full of sounds that don't come with explanations. Wind whistling through a crack can sound like a voice. An animal call can sound like a scream. Old buildings creak and pop like footsteps. And if you're stressed or grieving, your brain is even more likely to interpret mystery sounds as meaningful. That's not stupidity. That's survival wiring. Your brain is a pattern machine. It's constantly asking, is that important? Is that danger? And if you hear something strange in the dark, the ancient safe move is to assume it might matter. Ignoring a real threat is costly. So sometimes, a banshee sound might have a normal explanation, but the emotional meaning people attach to it can still be real. Because humans don't experience the world like a camera, we experience it like a storyteller. We turn moments into meaning automatically. Modern pop culture often turns the banshee into a simple horror creature. Hear the scream, doom arrives. Clean rules, easy scares. But the older version is more haunting in a quieter way. Because it isn't just about fear, it's about transition. The thin line between before and after. A lot of cultures have stories like that, omens, messengers, threshold figures, because humans are obsessed with those moments where life flips. Birth, marriage, leaving home, war, peace, loss. The banshee fits into that category. She's a threshold story. And that's why she survives. So what's the real point of the banshee? It's not there's definitely a ghost. It has people needed a way to talk about grief before they had modern language for it. They needed a symbol for the fear of change. They needed a story that made loss feel less silent and lonely. They needed a shared way to say, something heavy is happening, and we should not pretend it isn't. So next time you hear the banshee legend, don't picture a Hollywood monster first. Picture something older and more real, a community trying to survive life's hardest moments with the only tools humans have always had: stories, symbols, and the courage to give sadness a voice instead of hiding it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.